All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about a totally new way to think about teaching. And believe it or not, we're going to do it by looking back in time to something you'd probably never expect. So let me ask you something. Is your instruction really as impactful as it could be? I mean, if you're an educator, a trainer, a leader, you've probably asked yourself this. You put in all this work, but does it actually stick? It's a huge challenge, right? And that right there, that points to a really crucial gap. You know, there's a big difference between just delivering information and actually creating real, lasting change in someone. Let's call it the impactful instruction gap. Okay, so here's the core dilemma for so many of us. You've got to be efficient, right? You can't spend a week crafting one lesson. But on the other hand, it has to be effective. I mean, what's the point of being super efficient if nobody learns anything? It's this constant balancing act, and it's the real problem we're trying to solve here. So how do we bridge that gap? Well, the whole idea we're digging into today suggests a pretty radical shift in how we think. It asks us to look for inspiration in a place you'd probably never think to look: the Industrial Revolution. Now, hold on. To be crystal clear, we're not talking about turning classrooms into soulless factories. No way. This is about adopting an industrial mindset. Think about it. A focus on systems, on processes, on being able to scale things up. It's about seeing instruction as not just a creative art, but also as a kind of science, something you can refine, repeat, and scale to get consistently great results. And this slide really breaks it down perfectly. Think of traditional instruction like a master craftsman. You know, they create these beautiful, one-of-a-kind pieces. It can be brilliant, but every single one is a unique performance, and it's almost impossible to scale. The industrial leveraged model, though, that's all about building a system designed from the ground up for consistency and scale, so that every single person gets that high-quality experience every time. Okay, so if the original Industrial Revolution ran on steam engines and big machines, what's the engine for this revolution in teaching? Well, the answer is probably obvious to you. It's technology. That's the engine that makes this whole thing go. And this gets us to a really important definition. Impactful instruction isn't just one thing. It's actually a mashup of two ideas. You've got efficiency, which is all about doing things right, and you've got effectiveness, which is about doing the right things. You absolutely need both. And technology, that's the secret sauce that lets you blend them together. Yeah, this quote right here, this is basically the mission statement. It's so simple and so powerful. The goal is to provide more efficient and more effective instruction. That's it. Every tool you use, every system you build should be pointed directly at that target. And that really drives home the role of technology here. It's not just some cool, shiny add-on. It is the core engine. It's what actually lets you build those repeatable processes, get your content out there to tons of people, and keep the quality high without having to start from scratch every single time. Okay, I get it. This all sounds great in theory, right? But what about in practice? How do you actually do this? How do you go from, oh, that's a neat idea, to actually being good at it? Well, the path is actually pretty straightforward. It breaks down into 3 steps. First, you've got to learn the core principles, really get the mindset. Second, you figure out how to apply the right tech to build your system. And third, and this one is maybe the most important of all, you have to get your hands dirty with actual practice. Seriously, that last step, practice, it's completely non-negotiable. There's a reason hands-on learning is so critical. Because look, it's one thing to understand an idea in your head, but it's a whole different ballgame to actually do it. Practice is what builds that bridge from theory to real-world skill. It builds the muscle memory, it builds the confidence, it's everything. All right, let's pull all these threads together. What does this actually mean for you, for your own evolution as a teacher or a trainer? How does this change the game? At the end of the day, this is the real shift. It's a change in how you see yourself. You're not just a solo performer on a stage anymore. You're the architect of a powerful, repeatable learning system. You're building something that can scale your impact way beyond what you could ever do on your own, one session at a time. So, let's end where we started, with a question for you. When you look at what you do, your teaching, your training, what's the very first, maybe even tiny, step you could take to start building a more systematic, a more efficient, a more effective engine for instruction? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.